I'm joined by Jersey City resident Kyle Jasey. He's a married father of two young children, and he is taking on the monumental task, I might say, of running for United States Senate in 2024 on the Democratic side against incumbent U.S. Senator Bob Menendez. First of all, Mr. Jasey, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Why have you decided to seek a United States Senate seat against one of the I think you would agree, one of the most powerful Democrats, not only in New Jersey, but currently in the United States Senate?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would seem that with a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, I probably have enough on my plate at the moment. But um, years ago when Menendez was running before, I was kind of looking at the situation and I thought it was a real shame that nobody had really stepped up to run against him. And I told myself back then that I said, if I'm in a position to do it, in 5 years from now, then I'm going to go for it if nobody else is running. And so I kind of watched and waited and to see if anybody with a bigger name or more resources stepped up. And when nobody did, I just kind of said, all right, fine, I'm going to go for it. And
Now,
luckily, my
I
lovely
believe
wife
this
was
is
supportive of
the
that.
first time you're seeking elected office, although you do have some experience. Were you a committee person in East Orange?
I was a district leader in South Orange.
In South Orange. Okay. And for those who might not know, your mom has
Yep.
been in the New Jersey Assembly for, I guess, 15, 16 years in the 27th district. So there's some political
Yep.
ties there in the family. How much, from what I've read and from what I've seen so far since you announced that you're going to be a candidate, how much of your decision is based upon some of the quote unquote legal issues that Senator Menendez has faced over the past several years? Is that a main reason?
Um, yeah, I mean, I just think, I'm from New Jersey. I'm like, I guess, third generation New Jersey. And I just think it's an embarrassment. I just think it's an embarrassment that our representative, one of the highest officials in the state, just can't stay out of trouble. And it's funny, I was telling someone the other day that when I thought about doing this years ago, and it was always kind of in the back of my mind, and I knew things would kind of have to play out if this was something I was going to do. It never occurred to me that he would get in trouble again. Like I just saw an article yesterday that he's hired some high power criminal defense attorney, and it never occurred to me that he'd be in trouble with something new. So I'd kind of already decided to do this. The fact that, he's back in trouble, it's just, enough is enough at this point. Somebody needed to challenge him.
Okay, let's talk about some issues. In your mind, what are the main challenges, the main issues facing residents of the state of New Jersey right now in 2023?
I mean, I think it's a good question. I think they're in line with some of the broader national issues. I think healthcare is too expensive. I think, prescription drugs are too expensive. I think we also need to bring back jobs to this country too. I mean, I know unemployment's low, but I think a lot of people are not necessarily in careers. They're not in the jobs that they want to be in. I think that we need to keep pushing for reindustrialization, bringing jobs back from overseas. And I think we're poised to do that. I think the president has taken some steps in the right direction with that. And that's the kind of stuff I would push for. I think at the end of the day, people like myself, you got to be able to support your family. And that's the most important thing to most people. So I think that's why most people follow politics, but rather casually because they're caught up in their day to day lives. They're trying to support their families. And, a lot of the costs living here have just gotten out of hand. When you compare to other countries, it's completely out of whack.
Professionally, your background with your wife is in the real estate field. How much of an impact, how much of an important factor is trying to get more affordable housing for people in the Garden State so they don't move out of state? How big of an issue is the housing situation?
I think it's an enormous issue. I mean, I live here in Jersey City and I love living here, but I hate the high cost of it. Now, to be fair, I choose to live here. It's a nice lifestyle living in downtown Jersey City, but at the same time, it's getting prohibitively expensive for a lot of people. And so, you have this shortage of houses, and so you have everyone's competing for, apartments. My wife and I, we rent, and we just face a rent increase, and a lot of people are going through that, and there's just no options. People feel like there's no houses to buy. And so that's a New Jersey issue, but it's also a broader issue in the country. It's just there's not enough housing stock, and so young people like ourselves, we can't find houses to buy, and that's one of the one ways that people save, and grow wealth over time. So I think it's a big problem.
Preparing for this interview, I took a look at your website. One of the other issues that you have on there talks about making education more affordable for residents here in the state of New Jersey. Talk a little bit about that. How would you go about doing that?
I think personally, I think I'd have to study it more, to be honest with you. Yeah, I don't know what is the perfect strategy for that. I've heard a lot of people talk about different ideas. We definitely have to do something. Like, it's crazy. You hear these stories about people from the 70s, and they're like, oh yeah, I was a full-time student and I paid for it by, flipping burgers in the summer. And it's just like stuff like that, people paying their way through college. You don't hear those kinds of stories anymore. So I think it's another thing. It's just, I think we need to look at it and study the issue and see what made it so expensive, and then start working backwards from there. And so I have some ideas about it, but to be honest, I don't feel comfortable enough that, I have the right solution on that. But it's definitely something that I would study and that I would work with others to start figuring out, okay, where did we go wrong with this? Because, to give an example, my wife's Mexican, and so we spend a lot of time down in Mexico. And when I talk to people down there, it's completely different. You don't have any of this people going into, long-term debt to pay for college. People down there can still afford to pay for college themselves. It's extremely cheap. And you find that when you talk to Europeans as well. And so you do wonder, you say, well, how come, I was able to get, a quality education throughout high school and everything, and then all of a sudden I go to college and the cost to be educated is 5, 6 times as expensive. It just doesn't make any sense.
So, as I mentioned, the election's not till next year. Um, what's your strategy? How are you going to go about your campaigning? How much have you been doing so far? New Jersey's not an overly large state. It's not Texas, but you've got a lot of ground to cover. What's your strategy for the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm still figuring a lot of that out. I mean, I kind of feel like we're just getting going now. Um, Part of that was just end of summer, having 2 kids, and just kind of now we're getting them off to school. My wife and I have more time to focus on this. I'm still running my business as well, but I think our strategy is, to get out there as much as we can, start raising as much as we can. We're planning our first fundraiser now, and I think, just from the conversations I've had, from the people I've met with, I think that there is a lot of grassroots support for something like this. I think people are ready to see Menendez go. I think they'll feel even more so that way, as, the coming months unfold with his legal situation. So already we're getting a lot of people reaching out that are interested in helping with the campaign, volunteering and interning. And so, we need to figure out who's going to be leading the campaign, fundraising strategy, all these things. But the good news is that the support seems to be there. I mean, I think the will of the people is there. And yeah, I wouldn't have gotten into this if I didn't think that it was winnable, if I didn't think that people were ready for some sort of change.
Okay, well, I want to wish you the best of luck in your campaign. Do you want to throw out your email? I'm sorry, your web address for people if they want to read up a little bit more about you and your campaign to this point?
Yeah, sure. They can check us out at www.jasey, Jasey, 4FOR Jersey, Jersey, of course, .com. So jaseyforjersey.com. And, if you're interested in getting involved, please reach out. If you're willing to give a donation, that's great as well. I think we have a lot of work to do, but I really appreciate you, taking the time here with me today. And I hope to speak to you again.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us on Hudson TV. Good luck over the next year or so as you put the boots to the ground, so to speak, and hit the campaign trail.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. I really appreciate this.